Zombie apocalypse.
How's it going, everybody? This is Tyler Drabo. Hope you're all having another great day, and welcome back to another video. So as I was talking about last week, today I'm going to be starting a brand new mini-series here on my YouTube channel. It's called Random Thoughts. So for those that want to know what it's about, it's basically a series where I talk about whatever's on my mind, whether it's something that's real important in the world, or a personal story that I have that I found really interesting, or if I really just want to rant about something, anything about that, I'll talk about it here in this series. And really, it can be about anything: sports, politics, entertainment, or anything personal that's going on in my life. And so for this one, this is going to be talking about part-time work and why part-time employees are treated a little differently than full-time employees, and in some ways probably treated as less than full-time employees. Now, for those that obviously know me, I've had to work a slew of part-time jobs, which included Stop and Shop, CVS, Burger King, tutoring as well as my current jobs at Lowe's and ShopRite, just so I can pay for my college tuition and even just pay for all the other things that are happening around the house. And in fact, this week I just came off a 70+ hour work week across 3 of my current jobs at CVS, ShopRite, and at Lowe's. And obviously, let's just say there was a lot of hours that I had to do and a whole lot of work that really left me a little burned out. But obviously, as a part-time employee, I do feel like that, for some reason, there's not a whole lot that is good about it. And usually, while part-time jobs, you get the freedom to have a little more flexibility, be able to do things outside of it. You gotta be able to have to find something to be able to pay for everything in the house, because there could be a situation in the near future that you have to deal with that could be really important, and you really need to find those benefits to be able to help pay for it. But sometimes there's just a big difference between how stores and as well as managers manage with their full-time employees and their part-time employees, and there's really a whole lot of differences between the both of them that I'd like to talk about here. And so I'll be talking about 4 differences as to why I think that part-time employees are treated a little differently than full-time employees, and why I really think that there needs to be changes in the way that this is done, so that way everybody that works at a store or any corporation that is treated equally and with respect. So the first reason is work flexibility. Now obviously this has a lot to do with work scheduling, and usually part-time employees usually work a little less than full-time employees. Full-time employees, they obviously work 5 days a week or at least 40 hours, while part-time employees, they usually work around like 20 or 25 hours. Now here's the problem with part-time employees. For part-time employees, unlike full-time employees, their schedules can tend to vary, and usually a lot of this has to do with their schedules being mixed up. There's usually areas where hours could be a little more crazier than it should be, so sometimes, they can be working at least 4 days a week, or other times they could be working 2 or 3 days a week, and usually it all depends on what's going on at the store at the time. But there's a lot of factors that tend to play out into this, and sometimes that's something that part-time employees don't take well, because there are a lot of things that they have to deal with at home, because even though they have a lot of flexibility to be able to spend some more free time doing some other things, let's say, like, for example, what if they are in some kind of like a financial situation where it's really that dire, or they really gonna have to try to find another job just so they can pay for it. I've seen a lot of people have to work more than one part-time job just so they can do that, and obviously that's exactly the situation that I'm doing right now, so I fit in that bill just a little bit. But yeah, it's really crazy, because like part-time workers, they're trying to do everything they can, but obviously depending on the situation that's happening at their store, their work schedules can be really crazy, while full-time employees, obviously, they get the freedom of just working as many hours as they can, make sure they get the full-time schedule of 40 hours and getting really all the benefits that they can have. Also, why for some reason that part-time employees at most jobs have to work on weekends, while full-time employees can just have a simple 9 to 5 job on Monday through Friday? I really don't understand why most of these companies do that. And so yeah, it's really just something that you gotta take into mind. Work flexibility is really important. Full-time employees, they can have that. Part-time employees, they can also have it as well, because they can have that free time everywhere else. However, the problem is, obviously, it's just really unpredictable when it comes to their schedule, and usually it depends on multiple factors like work performance, or mainly just a whole bunch of things that are happening in the store. And sometimes that's the reason why part-time employees feel like that they're treated a little differently than full-time employees. Another thing is the benefits. Now, obviously, when it comes to benefits, full-time employees, they get really all the benefits, like healthcare, paid time off, vacation, sick days, they get all of that, so that way they can enjoy everything else that's happening with their lives while also having the comfort of having a full-time job. Part-time employees, however, they really don't have a whole lot of that. And I say that because, as a part-time employee, usually you're just trying to work there just to make whatever money you can. And unfortunately, as a part-time employee, there aren't a whole lot of benefits that you can have. And that tends to be a problem for some part-time employees that, let's just say that, for 1 week they want to have like a vacation or something like that. That can be very hard to do. And that's really because, as part-time employees, let's say they want to take a week off, but however, at the same time, they end up getting called in for that week. They really got no other choice. And more importantly, they can't have that luxury of having those benefits, because they're working less hours. And that tends to be a real big problem for them when it comes to being able to do all these jobs while at the same time having that flexibility to be able to score all of those benefits, so that way they can help pay for everything that they have to do in their financial lives and at their homes as well, and maybe even for some leisure time too. And obviously benefits are really important today because, in order to have those benefits, you gotta work as hard as possible and be able to do everything right at your job to be able to ensure that you're getting those benefits. But part-time employees, unfortunately, they're not as lucky to be able to get that because, with all the less hours that they're doing and, all the low pay that they're having, that's really going to play a detrimental part in how they're going to be able to pay financially for everything that's going on around them. And, with all those benefits that those full-time employees are having, it's really difficult for part-time employees to be able to get that when they're having to work less hours and having to search for another job to be able to help pay for everything that's happening here. And so I really think that, there needs to be another look at part-time employees when it comes to having benefits, because they need to have those benefits just like those full-time employees. They really need it. And especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, particularly the financial and economic situation right now, they really need those benefits, because without them, it's going to be hard for them to be able to work hard enough to be able to make all the money they need to survive and to be able to ensure that they have a really good future financially as well. Another thing that is really important is the pay. Now, obviously, as we all know, there's a lot of differences between the pay when it comes to full-time employees and part-time employees. Now, full-time employees, obviously, with them working mostly like 8 to 10 hours a week, they're going to get really the highest amount of pay possible. Part-time employees, though, they're treated a lot differently when it comes to that scenario. They end up working less amount of money than all of the full-time employees that they have to work with at their particular company. That's something that I've had to deal with as well. There have been days where I've ended up only working 4-hour shifts, or even just like a weekend, like 2 or 3 days a week. And because of that, you've had to accept less pay. And because of that, all the full-time employees, like I said before, they're getting all the benefits, while all of those that are working part-time, they're making less and less amount of money. And that plays a big role with the problem when it comes to minimum wage and all of that. Obviously, as we all know, Congress is trying to see if they can get the minimum wage up to $15 an hour, which obviously would be a good thing. But obviously, the problem is how are part-time employees going to be able to do all of that, even if part-time employees are able to get to the minimum wage of $15 an hour should that end up being passed. I mean, that's a real problem because part-time employees, like I said, with work flexibility, that's less hours. And unfortunately, that's less opportunities to make all the money that they need to be able to help pay for everything here. Because, like I said before, financial situation, everything going on with COVID, obviously that's a whole lot of problems that they gotta deal with. And how many jobs are you gonna have to be able to get if one company is paying you less as a part-time employee while also giving all full-time employees all the benefits and all the money that they need? That's exactly something that I've had to do when I had to apply for all the other jobs to go along with ones that I had at CBS during the last part of my collegiate career. I unfortunately was only able to do 1 day a week at my job there, and as a result of that, I was only able to make at least $81 a week. That's something that I can't live on. The pay needs to improve for part-time employees. They're working just as hard as full-time employees when it comes to that, but they're just not getting the respectable pay that they're able to get because of everything that's going on financially. And finally, the fourth thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the differences between part-time and full-time employees is that recognition. Obviously, you feel like that even if you're a part-time employee, you're just going in, you're working as hard as possible, and heck, you're even doing a lot of great things, probably things that are even better than full-time employees at. The problem is that you're not going to be able to get a whole lot of career advancement, because as a part-time employee, you're still treated a little less than a full-time employee. And that's something that I find to be a real problem. Part-time employees, some of them are just having to take a job just for the sake of it, but yet they're they're able to work as hard as possible for the amount of time that they're able to work there, and they're doing so much to try to prove that they deserve to have a full-time job and be able to get that higher pay and be able to get all the benefits that they can get. The problem is, that some companies, that's absolutely can't happen because, of all the situations that could be happening there surrounding that, it's just very hard for part-time employees to be able to have a career advancement in them. Some of them, obviously, their jobs they may only end up being dead-end jobs, and that can really be a bad thing for them personally when it comes to career advancement. And the worst part about that is, even with part-time employees, they can do everything that they possibly can to be able to make an impact. And unfortunately, a full-time employee that, maybe might do a little less than a part-time employee, they still get all the recognition because they're a full-time employee and they still get that higher status than a part-time employee. And, that's something that I just don't find right because, part-time employees, they're just like full-time employees. They're really trying everything they can to survive and, be able to work hard, work your butt off, and to be able to make all the money that you possibly can, as well as to be able to make all the impacts that you can when it comes to working at your job and working with your fellow colleagues. That's something that you pride on, and that's something that you gotta be able to do to be able to make an impact at your store. And to not get any recognition or get any opportunities to advance at your position or in your career because of that, and to be forced to stick at a part-time schedule that you're working at, I just don't find that to be acceptable. And I think that, there needs to be improvements when it comes to opportunities for part-time employees when it comes to career advancement, because there are a lot of part-time employees that are able to work their butts off and to be able to work as hard as possible to earn those benefits, as well as the possibility to advance in their careers, and they're just being passed over for all the wrong reasons. And I think that's something that really needs to look at. So as somebody that's worked part-time for almost the last 5.5 years, having to work part-time jobs to be able to pay for everything here, as well as to be able to get everything that I always wanted, that's just something that I always find interesting because, as a part-time employee, I've been used to mainly just working 2 or 3 days a week. And, so it's just something that, I really tend to do because, I'm having to try to be able to find as much as I can. And with the situation that I'm in right now, where I'm trying to find a full-time job in the media and film industry, obviously I'm just having to find as many part-time jobs as I can because, like I said, at the one at CBS, I'm only working at least one day for 6 hours, and I'm only making like $74 or $81 a week as a result of that. And so that's the reason why I got the Lowe's and ShopRite jobs because, I'm not getting all the benefits as well as extra hours and pay there at CBS that I'm able to get with all the other jobs as well. As a part-time employee, that's something that I really think needs another look at. When you look at it in a different perspective, full-time employees, they're getting all the benefits. Part-time employees, they're trying everything they can just to survive. And I really do think that part-time employees really need a lot of help. So that being said, I do think that part-time employees are treated a little differently than full-time employees because they're really just like expendable. They're not being able to get everything that they need when it comes to their hours as well as all the pay and all of that because, they're only there, just for a short amount of time. And full-time employees, they're getting everything that they always wanted. And I do think that, at nearly every company, not just some of the companies that I work for, but every company that employs both full-time and part-time employees, I really do think that there needs to be a whole lot of changes. I do think that there needs to be a way in the near future where part-time employees can get that same recognition and those same amount of opportunities to get that higher pay, benefits, extra hours, as well as the opportunity to advance in their careers like full-time employees do. Because, part-time employees, they're going in there for at least less than 20 to 25 hours a week. They're still working hard, some of them even just as hard as full-time employees. And unfortunately, they're just not getting the recognition that full-time employees can because, they're being treated differently than full-time employees. And that's just something that I think really needs improvement on because otherwise, what's the point in having part-time employees work at your company if you're going to treat full-time employees more than part-time employees? Some people are going to think part-time employees are not even really convinced that they're able to do the job because, part-time employees are ending up working less than full-time employees are. That's just not the way employment goes around here. So yeah, I do see opportunities in the near future for both full-time and part-time employees to be able to get equal treatment regarding pay, work flexibility, along with the benefits, as well as opportunities to advance their careers. I really think that there needs to be more opportunities for part-time employees to be able to achieve that amount of opportunities that full-time employees can, because there are a lot of part-time employees out there that I think are doing a really good job at their positions and really deserve a lot more than they're getting right now. But, the situation that we're living in right now, it's just going to be very hard to do that. And, that's just a random thought that I had about part-time employees. But again, there could be a lot more improvements in that in the near future. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. As always, be sure to comment below on whatever videos you'd like for me to make next, whether it's vlogs, projects, challenges, or even another random thoughts video like I did today. Feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. And as always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you all are having another great day. And as always, I hope to see you all again in another video very soon. So long, everybody.